Adventure 7 of The Adventures of
nature
Sherlock
of the small
Holmes
cases.
by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. Adventure 7. The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. I had called upon my friend Sherlock Holmes upon the second morning after Christmas, with the intention of wishing him the compliments of the season. He was lounging upon the sofa in a purple dressing gown, a pipe rack within his reach upon the right, and a pile of crumpled morning papers, evidently newly studied, near at hand. Beside the couch was a wooden chair, and on the angle of the back hung a very seedy and disreputable hard felt hat, much the worse for wear, and cracked in several places. A lens and a forceps lying on the seat of the chair suggested that the hat had been suspended in this manner for the purpose of examination. "You are engaged," said I. "Perhaps I interrupt you."
Let us begin with the hat.
"Not at all. I am glad to have a friend with whom I can discuss my results.
This
The matter
is
is
the
a
hat of a
perfectly
man of
trivial
great
one."
intellect.
He jerked his thumb in the direction of the old hat.
A
"But
married
there are
man whose wife
points
no
in
longer cares
connection
enough to
with
brush
it
the
which are
hat.
not entirely devoid of interest, and even of instruction."
Amazing.
I seated myself in his armchair and warmed my hands before his crackling fire, for a sharp frost had set in, and the windows were thick with the ice crystals.
It's about the royal connections
"I
of the victim
suppose,"
and the
I
immense
remarked,
value of the
"that
carbuncle,
homely as
not
it
a simple
looks,
street
this
brawl.
thing has some deadly story linked onto it.
The
That
greatest
it is
crime
the
of the
clue
season is
which will
linked to the
guide you in the
lowest form of
solution of
evidence,
some
a
mystery,
goose.
and the punishment of some crime." "No, no crime," said Sherlock Holmes, laughing. "Only one of those whimsical little incidents which will happen when you have 4 million human beings all jostling each other within the space of a few square miles, amid the action
wanted
and
to ask what
reaction
happened.
of so dense a swarm of humanity. Every possible combination of events may be expected to take place, and many a little problem will be presented which may be striking and bizarre without being criminal. We have already had experience of such." "So much so," I remarked, "that of the last 6 cases which I have added to my notes, 3 have been entirely free of any legal crime." "Precisely. You allude to my
Financial
attempt to
decline.
recover the Irene Adler papers,
This hat is
to the
years
singular
old.
case of Miss Mary Sutherland, and to the adventure of the man with the twisted lip. Well, I have no doubt that this small matter will
the
fall into
goose.
the same innocent category. You know Peterson, the commissionaire?" "Yes." "It is to him that this trophy belongs." "It is his hat." No, he found it. Its owner is unknown. I beg that you will look upon it not as a battered billycock, but as an intellectual problem.
And in thought.
And
This stillness
first,
is
as
essential
to
for
how
the
it
next
came
steps.
here. It arrived upon Christmas morning, in company with a good fat goose, which is, I have no doubt, roasting at this moment in front of Peterson's fire. The facts are these. About 4 o'clock on Christmas morning, Peterson, who, as you know, is a very honest fellow,
Indeed.
was returning from some small jollification, and was making his way homeward down Tottenham Court Road. In front of him he saw in the gaslight a tallish man, walking with a slight stagger, and carrying a white goose slung over his shoulder.
Here is your goose,
As he
Mr.
reached
Baker,
the corner
and
of Good
in its
Street,
crop.
A row broke out between this stranger and a little knot of roughs. One of the latter knocked off the man's hat, on which he raised his stick to defend himself, and swinging it over his head, smashed the shop window behind him. Peterson had rushed forward to protect the stranger from his assailants, but the man, shocked at having broken the window and seeing an official-looking person in uniform rushing towards him, dropped his goose, took to his heels, and vanished amid the labyrinth of small streets which lie at the back of Tottenham Court Road. The roughs had also fled at the appearance of Peterson, so that he was left in possession of the field of battle and also of the spoils of victory, in the shape of this battered hat and a most unimpeachable Christmas goose, which surely he restored to their owner. My dear fellow, there lies the problem. It is true that for Mrs. Henry Baker was printed upon a small card which was tied to the bird's left leg. And it is also true that the initials H.B. are legible upon the lining of this hat. But as there are some thousands of Bakers and some hundreds of Henry Bakers in this city of ours, it is not easy to restore lost property to any one of them. What then did Peterson do? He brought round both hat and goose to me on Christmas morning, knowing that even the smallest problems are of interest to me. The goose we retained until this morning, when there were signs that, in spite of the slight frost, it would be well that it should be eaten without unnecessary delay. Its finder has carried it off, therefore, to fulfill the ultimate destiny of a goose, while I continue to retain the hat of the unknown gentleman who lost his Christmas dinner. Did he not advertise? No. Then what clue could you have as to his identity? Only as much as we can deduce. From his hat? Precisely. But you are joking. What can you gather from this old battered felt? Here is my lens. You know my methods. What can you gather yourself as to the individuality of the man who has worn this article? I took the tattered object in my hands and turned it over rather ruefully. It was a very ordinary black hat of the usual round shape, hard and much the worse for wear. The lining had been of red silk, but was a good deal discoloured. There was no maker's name, but, as Holmes had remarked, the initials H.B. were scrawled upon one side. It was pierced in the brim for a hat securer, but the elastic was missing. For the rest, it was cracked, exceedingly dusty, and spotted in several places, although there seemed to have been some attempt to hide the discoloured patches by smearing them with ink. "I can see nothing," said I, handing it back to my friend. "On the contrary, Watson, you can see everything. You fail, however, to reason from what you see. You are too timid in drawing your inferences. Then pray tell me what it is that you can infer from this hat." He picked it up and gazed at it in the peculiar introspective fashion which was characteristic of him. "It is perhaps less suggestive than it might have been," he remarked, "and yet there are a few inferences which are very distinct. and a few others which represent at least a strong balance of
Xác nhận đây là lô
probability.
ngỗng đúng mà Baker đã nhận.
That the man was highly intellectual is, of course,
Amazing.
obvious upon the face of it, and also that he was fairly well-to-do within the last 3 years, although he has
Goose,
now
exactly
fallen upon
like.
evil days. He had foresight, but has
Tôi đã bán hết
less
ngỗng
now
rồi
than
và
formerly,
tôi không quan tâm đến chúng nữa.
pointing to a moral retrogression, which, when taken with the
police are quite
decline of
thorough
his
when they find something
fortunes,
of interest.
seems to indicate some evil influence, probably drink, at work upon him. This may account also for the obvious fact that his wife has ceased
know where
to
I am.
love him.
We have to leave now.
My dear Holmes. He has, however, retained some degree of self-respect, he continued, disregarding my remonstrance. He is a man who leads a sedentary life, goes out little, is out of training entirely, is middle-aged, has grizzled hair, which he has had cut within the last few days, and which he anoints with lime cream. These are the more patent facts which are to be deduced from his hat. Also, by the way, that it is extremely improbable that he has gas laid on in his house. You are certainly joking, Holmes. Not in the least. Is it possible that even now, when I give you these results, you are unable to see how they are attained? I have no doubt that I am very stupid, but I must confess that I am unable to follow you. For example, how did you deduce that this man was intellectual?
The hotel employee.
For answer, Holmes clapped the hat upon his head.
I had about a dozen.
It came
geese
right
for sale.
over the forehead and settled upon the bridge of his
And
nose.
what became of the remaining batch of geese?
It is a question of cubic
I sold the remaining
capacity,
geese
said he.
to a
A
specific
man
who
with
came
so
from London.
large a brain must have
Henry
something
Baker's
in
goose
it.
came from one batch, and the
The
actual
decline of
thief
his
is the one who lost the
fortunes,
stone.
then. This hat is 3 years old.
On a fatal mistake
These
caused by the
flat
identical
brims
geese.
curled at the edge came in then. It is a hat of the very best quality. Look at the band of ribbed silk and the excellent lining. If this man could afford to buy so expensive a hat
James
3
Ryder.
years ago, and has had no hat since, then he has assuredly gone down in the world. Well, that is clear enough, certainly. But how about the foresight and the moral retrogression?
Ryder stole
Sherlock
the jewel
Holmes
and framed
laughed.
a plumber,
Here
Fowler,
is the
using
foresight,
the goose to conceal the
said he,
evidence.
putting his finger upon the little disc and loop of the hat securer.
Ryder, the attendant of
They
the
are
Countess of
never
Morcar's
sold
hotel.
upon hats. If this man
Hat,
ordered
goose,
one, it
innkeeper,
is a sign
dealer,
of a
farmer,
certain amount
rider,
of foresight,
hotel.
since he went out of his way to take this precaution against the wind. But since we see that he has broken the elastic and has not troubled to replace it, it is obvious
The police
that he
would have
has
never
less
traced that goose back
foresight
to the
now
hotel
than
attendant.
formerly, which is a distinct
We
proof
must
of a
find
weakening
James
nature.
Ryder.
On the other hand, he has endeavoured to conceal some of these stains upon the felt by daubing them with ink, which is a sign that he has not entirely lost his self-respect. Your reasoning is certainly plausible. The further
proceed
points
to Ryder's
that
home,
he is
then to the
middle-aged, that his hair is
We will
grizzled,
attempt to leave the
that it
country.
has been recently cut, and that he uses lime cream, are all to be gathered from a close examination of the lower part of the lining. The lens discloses a large number of hair ends, clean cut by the scissors of the barber. They all appear to be adhesive, and there is a distinct odour of lime cream.
Every detail no matter how
This
small,
dust, you will
leads us closer
observe,
to the truth.
is not the gritty, grey dust of the street, but the fluffy
chase,
brown
I
dust of
believe,
the
is
house,
almost over.
showing that it has been hung up indoors most of the time, while the marks of moisture upon the inside are proof positive that the wearer perspired very freely, and could therefore hardly be in the best of training. But his wife, you said that she had ceased to love him. This hat has not been brushed for weeks. When I see you, my dear Watson, with a week's accumulation of dust upon your hat, and when your wife allows you to go out in such a state, I shall fear that you also have been unfortunate enough to lose your wife's
James
affection.
Ryder is the main culprit.
But he might be a bachelor. Nay, he was bringing home the goose as a peace offering to his wife. Remember the card upon the bird's leg. You have an answer to everything.
James Ryder.
But how on
Hotel
earth do
attendant.
you deduce that the gas is not laid on in his house?
Confess.
One tallow stain, or even two, might come by chance. But when I see no less than 5, I think that there can be little doubt that the individual must be brought into frequent contact with burning tallow. Walks upstairs at night, probably with his hat in one hand and a guttering candle in the other. Anyhow, he never got tallow stains from a gas jet. Are you satisfied? Well, it is very ingenious, said I, laughing. But since, as you said just now, there has been no crime committed and no harm done save the loss of a goose, all this seems to be rather a waste of energy. Sherlock Holmes had opened his mouth to reply when the door flew open, and Peterson, the commissionaire, rushed into the apartment with flushed cheeks and the face of a man who is dazed
Ryder's
with
deception
astonishment.
knows no bounds.
"The goose, Mr. Holmes! The goose, sir!"
Don't want to get
he
caught.
gasped. "Eh? What of it, then? Has it returned to life
The
and
simplicity is
flapped off
ingenious,
through the kitchen
but the
window?"
flaw was relying on
Holmes
biological
twisted
certainty.
himself round upon the sofa to get a fairer view of the man's excited face. "See here, sir. See what my wife found in its crop." He held out his hand, and displayed upon the centre of the palm a brilliantly scintillating blue stone,
Foolish plan,
rather smaller than a
but clever
bean
all
in
the
size,
same.
but of such purity and radiance that it twinkled
The
like an
chain is
electric
complete.
point
From the
in the
hat
dark
to the
hollow
goose
of his
to
hand.
the thief, the logic is
Sherlock
unbroken.
Holmes sat up with a whistle.
The
"By
very absurdity
Jove,
of the case is
Peterson,"
its strength,
said he,
demonstrating how nature
"this
itself
is
can form
treasure
the plans
trove
of man.
indeed.
Find James
I
Ryder.
suppose you know what you have got." "A diamond, sir, a precious stone. It cuts into glass as though it were putty." "It's more than a precious stone. It is the precious stone."
It can't be gone.
"Not the Countess of Morcar's Blue Carbuncle," I ejaculated. "Precisely so. I ought to know its size and shape, seeing that I have read the advertisement
Nothing
about it
is
in the
trivial in the
Times
hands of the
every
master.
day lately. It is absolutely unique, and its value can only be conjectured. But the reward offered of £1,000 is certainly not within a 20th part of the market price." £1,000! Great Lord of mercy! The commissionaire plumped down into a chair and stared
Sheer
from one to the
psychological
other
value
of
of
us.
this case must be preserved.
"That is the reward, and I have reason to know that there are sentimental considerations in the background which would induce the Countess to part with
So the
half her
respectable St.
fortune
Clair was,
if she could
in
but
reality,
recover the
a
gem."
repulsive boon.
"It was lost, if I remember aright, at the Hotel Cosmopolitan," I remarked. Precisely so. On December 22nd, just 5 days ago, John Horner, a plumber, was accused of having abstracted it from the lady's jewel case. The evidence against him was so strong that the case has been referred to the assizes. I have some account of the matter here, I believe. He rummaged amid his newspapers, glancing over the dates, until at last he smoothed one out, doubled it over, and read the following paragraph.
I deny the crime.
Hotel Cosmopolitan jewel robbery. John Horner, 26, plumber, was brought up upon the charge of having upon the 22nd inst. Abstracted from the jewel case of the Countess of Morcar the valuable gem known as the Blue Carbuncle. James Ryder, upper attendant at the hotel, gave his evidence to the effect that he had shown Horner up to the dressing room of the Countess of Morcar upon the day of the robbery, in order that he might solder the second bar of the grate, which was loose. He had remained with Horner some little time, but had finally been called away. On returning, he found that Horner had disappeared, that the bureau had been forced open, and that the small Morocco casket, in which, as it afterwards transpired, the Countess was accustomed to keep her jewel, was lying empty upon the dressing table. Ryder instantly gave the alarm, and Horner was arrested the same evening. But the stone could not be found either upon his person or in his rooms. Catherine Cusack, maid to the Countess, deposed to having heard Ryder's cry of dismay on discovering the robbery, and to having rushed into the room where she found matters as described by the last witness. Inspector Bradstreet, B Division, gave evidence as to the arrest of Horner, who struggled frantically and protested his innocence in the strongest terms.
He now has his freedom.
Evidence of a previous conviction for robbery having been given against the prisoner, the magistrate refused to deal summarily with the offence, but referred it to the assizes. Horner, who had shown signs of intense emotion during the proceedings, fainted away at the conclusion and was carried out of court. So much for the police court, said Holmes thoughtfully, tossing aside the paper. The question for us now to solve is the sequence of events leading from a rifled jewel case at one end to the crop of a goose in Tottenham Court Road at the other. You see, Watson, our little deductions have suddenly assumed a much more important and less innocent aspect. Here is the stone. The stone came from the goose, and the goose came from Mr. Henry Baker, the gentleman with the bad hat, and all the other characteristics with which I have bored you. So now we must set ourselves very seriously to finding this gentleman and ascertaining what part he has played in this little mystery. To do this, we must try the simplest means first, and these lie undoubtedly in an advertisement in all the evening papers.
Right here, sir, just where I found it.
If this fail, I shall have recourse to other methods.
This is the stolen gemstone.
What will you say? Give me a pencil and that slip of paper. Now then, found at the corner of Goose Street, a goose and a black felt hat. Mr. Henry Baker can have the same by applying at 6:30 this evening at 221B Baker Street.
Henry Baker is completely
That is
innocent.
clear and concise. Very,
Baker's
but
role
will
was
he
purely
see it?
accidental, a victim of
Well,
coincidence
he is
and the
sure to
criminal's
keep
haste.
an eye on the papers,
Baker's
since to a
innocence.
poor man the loss was a heavy one. He was clearly so scared by his mischance
mechanism
in
of the
breaking the
error,
window
with a lot
and
of
by the
identical
approach
geese,
of Peterson
caused
that
confusion
he
for the
thought
thief.
of nothing but flight. But since then he must have bitterly regretted the impulse which caused him to drop his bird.
Goose mix-up.
Then again
This
the
jewel has
introduction of
shifted
his
from a mere
name will
treasure
cause him to
to a
see it,
tool of
for
justice.
everyone who knows him will direct his attention to it. Here you are, Peterson. Run down to the advertising agency and have this put in the
gem
evening
will be used
papers.
for Horner's release,
In which,
emphasizing
sir?
the immediate reversal of the
Oh,
legal
in
error.
the Globe, Star,
The relief
Pall
that
Mall,
justice
St.
is being done
James's,
for the
Evening
wrongly
News,
accused.
Standard, Echo, and any others that occur to you. Very well, sir.
We must
And
use the
this
jewel
stone?
to vindicate Horner,
Ah,
the
yes.
innocent plumber.
I shall keep the stone. Thank you.
Yes,
And
another case
I
resolved.
say, Peterson, just buy a goose on your way back and leave it here with me, for we must have
The most
one to
valuable
give to
outcome
this
of the
gentleman
case
in
is the
place of the
restoration
one
of
which your
innocent
family
man's
is now
reputation.
devouring.
The gem's recovery.
The case
When the
is half
commissionaire
solved.
had
The
gone,
gem is found,
Holmes
the
took
innocent
up
freed.
the
Our
stone
immediate
and
focus
held
must
it
shift to
against the
finding
light.
thief, James Ryder.
It's a bonny thing, said he. Just see how it glints and sparkles. Of course it is a nucleus and focus of crime.
Goose's final
Every
fate.
good stone is. They are the devil's pet baits. In the larger and older jewels, every
The truth
facet
is often
may
hidden in the
stand
most
for a
commonplace
bloody
occurrences.
deed.
A genius of
This
simple
stone
disguise.
is not yet 20 years old.
Yes, Holmes,
It was found in the banks of the Amoy River in southern China, and is remarkable
batches
in
were
having
mixed up,
every
and the geese were
characteristic of the
accidentally given to
carbuncle,
Baker.
save that it is blue in shade instead of
The
ruby
next
red.
step is to find Ryder's home
In
or
spite
his
of
known
its
associates.
youth, it has already a sinister history. There have been 2 murders, a vitriol throwing, a suicide, and several robberies brought about for the sake of this 40-grain weight of crystallized charcoal. Who would think
Yes,
that
I
so
am ready to
pretty a
follow you in
toy
this
would
pursuit.
be a purveyor to the gallows and the prison? I'll lock it up in my strong-box now, and drop a line to the Countess to say that we have it. Do you think that
I
this
choose
man
to
Horner
pardon
is
James
innocent?
Ryder.
I cannot tell. Well, then, do you imagine that this other one, Henry Baker, had anything to do with the matter? It is, I think, much more likely that Henry Baker is an absolutely innocent man, who had no idea that the bird which he was carrying was of considerably more value than if it were made of solid gold.
Shame
That, however,
is
I
the
shall
true
determine
punishment.
by a very simple test, if we have an answer to our advertisement.
Terror of public exposure and of prison life
And
is
you
what
can
I
do
felt.
nothing until then? Nothing. In that case, I shall continue my professional round, but I shall come back in the
gentlemen.
evening at the hour you have mentioned, for I should like to see the
Ryder is a
solution
weak
of so
criminal,
tangled
not
a
a professional
business.
villain, driven to crime.
Very
by
glad
desperation.
to see you. I dine
But
at
Holmes,
7.
this is a
There is
clear
a
case
woodcock,
for the
I
police.
believe.
Are you
By
purely
the way,
certain about this
in
course
view of
action?
recent occurrences, perhaps I
Considering
ought
that the
to
jewel is
ask
recovered
Mrs.
and the
Hudson
innocent man
to
will be
examine
freed,
its crop.
it is Christmas.
End of Part 1 of Adventure 7, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. Part 2 of Adventure 7 of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. Adventure 7, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, Part 2. I had been delayed at a case and it was a little after 6:30 when I found myself in Baker Street once more.
A profound
As I
lesson about
approached the
nature of
house,
justice.
I saw a tall man in a Scotch bonnet with a coat which was buttoned up to his chin, waiting outside in the bright semicircle which was thrown from the fanlight. Just as I arrived, the door was opened, and we were shown up together to Holmes' room. "Mr. Henry Baker, I believe," said he, rising from his armchair and
Justice
greeting his
sometimes
visitor
requires
with
mercy.
the easy air of geniality which he could so readily assume.
Preserving every ethical
"Pray
complexity for
take
future
this
generations.
chair by the fire, Mr. Baker.
The case
It
is
is a
testament
cold
to the shocking
night,
duality
and
of
I
human
observe
life
that your
and the ultimate
circulation
triumph
is
of
more
compassion
adapted for
over
summer
war.
than for winter. Ah, Watson, you have just come at the right time. Is that your hat, Mr. Baker?"
The distinction between criminal
"Yes,
weakness
sir,
and malice
that is
lies in
undoubtedly
intellectual
my
difference.
hat." He was a large man with rounded shoulders, a massive head, and a broad, intelligent face, sloping down to a
The
pointed
psychological
beard of
value
grizzled
this case
brown,
must be preserved in the
a
annals.
touch of red in nose and cheeks, with a slight tremor of his extended hand, recalled Holmes' surmise as to his habits. His rusty black frock coat was buttoned right up in front, with the collar turned up, and his lank wrists protruded from his sleeves without a sign of cuff or shirt. He spoke in a slow staccato fashion, choosing his words with care, and gave the impression generally of a man of learning and letters who had had ill usage at the hands of fortune. "We have retained these things for some days," said Holmes, "because we expected to see an advertisement from you giving your address. I'm at a loss to know
With
now
Ryder's
why you did
confession
not
and the
advertise."
jewel, we shall
Our
free
visitor
order.
gave a rather shamefaced laugh. "Shillings have not been so plentiful with me as they once were," he remarked. "I had no doubt that the gang of roughs who assaulted me had carried off both my
All
hat
charges
and
have
the
been officially
bird.
dropped.
I
His
did not
reputation
care
is
to
fully
spend
restored.
more money in a hopeless attempt at recovering them." "Very naturally. By the way, about the bird. We were compelled to eat it." "To eat it!" Our visitor half rose from his chair in his excitement.
Its ultimate purpose was not to
"Yes,
shine,
it
but to
would have
serve
been of
justice.
no use to anyone had we not done so. But I presume that this other goose upon the sideboard, which is about the same weight and perfectly fresh, will answer your purpose equally well?" "Oh, certainly, certainly,"
Peterson,
answered
the
Mr.
commissionaire who
Baker
found the
with a
goose,
sigh
should
of
receive
relief.
the full reward, with a portion
"Of
to
course we still have the feathers, legs, crop, and so on of your own
My
bird,
lady wishes to
so
convey
if you
her
wish—"
immense gratitude
The
for
man
your
burst
professional
into a
service.
hearty laugh. "They might be useful to me as relics of my adventure," said he, "but beyond
Watson
that,
here,
I
documenting
can
the final
hardly
thoughts on
see
this
what
bizarre
use
chain of
the
events that linked a
disieta
valuable
membra
gem
of
to a
my
common
late
goose.
acquaintance are going
The
to
jewel
be
is
to me.
returned, the innocent man is
No,
free,
sir, I
and the
think
culprit
that
is
with
dealt
your
with.
permission, I will confine my attentions to the excellent
Từ một khởi
bird
đầu
which
đơn
I
giản, điều
perceive
làm tôi
upon the
ngạc nhiên đã dẫn
sideboard.
dắt toàn bộ cuộc điều tra phức tạp này.
Sherlock Holmes glanced sharply
The
across at
sweet
me with a slight
satisfaction of
shrug of his
logic.
shoulders. "There is your hat, then, and there your bird," said he.
Chance and accident
"By the
often
way,
play a larger
would
role
it
in crime
bore
than
you to
meticulous
tell me
planning.
where you got the other one
This
from?
particular case will be
I am
remembered for
somewhat
its
of a
unique
fowl
blend of
fancier,
absurdity
and I have
profound
seldom
criminal
seen a
enterprise.
better grown
The
goose."
physical case is closed.
"Certainly, sir," said Baker, who had risen and tucked his newly gained property under his arm. "There are a few of us who frequent the Alpha Inn near the museum. We are to be
The
found
reward,
in the
therefore,
museum
was
itself
distributed
during
evenly
the
between
day,
Peterson
you
and
understand,
Horner.
This year our good host, Windigate by name,
The greatest
instituted
mystery,
a
Watson,
goose
is
club,
not found in the crime
by
itself,
which, on consideration
human
of some
weakness that
few
permits it.
pence every week, we were
This
each to
case,
receive
a
a
study
bird
of
at
coincidence
Christmas.
and greed,
My
demands to be recorded.
pence were duly paid, and the rest is familiar to you. I am much indebted to you, sir, for a Scotch bonnet is
The
fitted
high-stakes crime
neither
was
to
solved
my
thanks to the
years
simplicity of the
nor my
goose's
gravity.
biology, a perfect paradox.
With a comical pomposity of manner, he bowed solemnly to both of us, and strode off upon his way. So
This
much
case,
for Mr. Henry Baker,
was a testament to the power
said
of the
Holmes,
trivial
when he
detail
had
in the
closed
hands
the
of
door
master
behind
detective.
him. It is quite certain that he knows
Yes,
nothing
indeed.
whatever about the matter. Are you hungry, Watson? Not particularly. Then I suggest that we turn our dinner into a supper and
Now,
follow
my
up
dear
this
Watson,
clue while it is
Let
still
us re-examine
hot.
the curious case
By
of
all
the battered
means.
felt hat.
It was a bitter night, so we drew on our ulsters and wrapped cravats about our throats. Outside, the stars
The
were
hat
shining
led to the
coldly
honest
in a
man,
cloudless
Henry
sky,
Baker.
and the breath of the passers-by blew out into smoke like so many pistol shots.
Well, Holmes, it
Our
seems another
footfalls
mystery
rang
has
out
been unraveled.
crisply and loudly as we swung through the Doctor's Quarter, Wimpole
The chain
Street,
of evidence is
Harley
now
Street,
complete.
and so through
The
Wigmore
inn led
Street
to the
into
dealer,
Oxford
the
Street.
dealer to the farmer, and the farmer
In a
to
quarter of
Ryder.
an hour we were in
Ryder,
Bloomsbury at the Alpha
the
Inn,
Countess's Hotel.
which is a small public house at the corner of one of the streets which runs down into Holborn.
So,
Holmes
you see,
pushed open the
loss of
door
the
of the
goose
private bar
leads directly
and
to
ordered
the
2
original
glasses
seller,
of beer
the
from the
Alpha Inn.
ruddy-faced, white-aproned landlord.
There is a profound
Your
opposition
beer should
between
be
trivial
excellent
evidence
if it is as
and the
good as your
magnificence of
geese,
the jewel.
said he.
The value of the
My
stone makes
geese?
the crime a grand
The
one,
man seemed
but the
surprised.
triviality of the clues makes
Yes,
it a pretty one.
I was speaking
The great
only
crime
half an
was
hour
solved
ago
by
to
following
Mr.
the
Henry
path of the
Baker,
Christmas dinner.
who was a member of your Goose Club. Oh, yes, I see.
The rogue
But you
fraud
see, sir,
charge
them's
was
not
single
our
error that
geese.
saved the jewel and exposed the
Indeed.
thief.
Whose, then?
Logic
Well,
and
I
method
got the 2 dozen
have
from a
allowed us to
salesman in
follow the
Covent
thread of
Garden.
chance to its inevitable
Indeed,
conclusion.
I know some of them. Which
Suppose
was
for
it?
logic?
Breckenridge is his name. Ah, I don't know him. Well, here's your good health, landlord, and prosperity to your house. Good night.
The final lesson about the power of the
Now
trivial.
for Mr. Breckenridge, he continued, buttoning up his coat as we came out into the
The
frosty
whole
air.
chain of events hinged on a simple.
Remember, Watson, that though we have so homely a thing as a
This is
goose
not just
at
another
one end
case,
of this chain,
but a Christmas
we have
legend.
at the other a man
story
who
that
will
deserves to
certainly
be
get
told.
7 years penal servitude unless we can establish his innocence. It is possible that our inquiry
Solved
may
case
but
is my
confirm
best
his guilt,
Christmas present.
but in any case, we have a line of investigation which has been missed by the police, and which a singular chance has placed in our hands. Let us follow it out to the bitter end. Faces to the south, then, and quick march.
This case must be
We
recorded.
passed across Holborn,
psychological
down
value
Endell
preserved
Street,
for the
and
annals
so
of
through
history.
a zigzag of slums to Covent Garden Market. One of the largest stalls bore the name of Breckenridge upon it, and the proprietor, a horsey-looking man with a sharp face and trim side-whiskers, was helping a boy to put up the shutters.
The case is a testament to
Good
the shocking
evening.
duality of human
It's
life
a
and the
cold
ultimate
night,
triumph of logic
said Holmes.
over the elaborate lie.
The salesman
I must
nodded
record
and
this
shot
case,
a questioning
for its
glance at
psychological
my
value
companion.
demands preservation.
Sold out of geese, I see, continued
This
Holmes,
case, above
pointing
all
at the
others,
bare slabs
confirms
of
his
marble.
genius.
Let you have 500 tomorrow morning. That's no good. Well, there are some on the stall with the gas flare. Ah, but I was recommended to you. Who by? The landlord of the Alpha. Oh, yes, I sent him a couple of dozen. Fine birds they were, too. Now, where did you get them from? To my surprise, the question provoked a burst of anger from the salesman. Now then, mister,
Ryder is
said
a
he,
weak criminal,
with his head cocked
motivated
and his
by
arms
desperation,
akimbo. What are you
unlike the cold
driving
malice
at?
of a true
Let's have
villain.
it straight now. It is straight enough. I should like to know who
We have
sold
chosen
you
a
the
path.
geese which you supplied to
He
the
is not a
Alpha.
professional.
Well, then I shan't tell you. So now. Oh, it is a matter of no importance, but I don't know why you should be so warm over such a trifle. Warm? You'd be
yes.
as warm, maybe, if you were as pestered as I am. When I pay good money for a good article, there should be an end of the business, but it's where are the geese, and who did you sell the geese to, and what will you take for the geese? One would think they were the only geese in the world to hear the
Yes,
fuss that
I
is
suppose
made
you are
over them.
right.
Well, I have no connection with any other people who have been making inquiries, said
Promise
Holmes
to live
carelessly.
honestly.
If you won't tell us, the bet is off, that is all. But I'm always ready to back my opinion on a matter of fowls, and I have a fiver on it that the bird I ate is country bred. Well, then, you've lost your fiver, for it's town bred,
This
snapped
is
the
a Christmas
salesman.
story.
It's
A tale
nothing
of
of the
redemption
kind.
and mercy.
I say it is. I don't believe
Legacy
it.
of Christmas compassion.
Do you think you know more about fowls than I, who have handled them ever since I was a nipper? I tell you, all those birds that went to the Alpha were town bred. You'll never persuade me to believe that. Will you bet, then? It's merely taking your money, for I know that I am right. But I'll have a sovereign
This
on
is
with
a
you
case
just to
of profound
teach you not
moral
to be
complexity.
obstinate.
A true masterpiece.
The
of
salesman
chronicles.
chuckled grimly. Bring me the books, Bill, said he. The small boy brought round a small, thin volume and a great, greasy-backed one, laying them out together beneath the hanging lamp. Now then, Mr. Cockshaw, said the salesman,
The case
I
is a
thought that I
testament
was
to the
out of
shocking
geese,
duality of
but
human
before
life
I finish
and the
you'll
ultimate
find that there
triumph
is
of
still
compassion
one
over
left
the
in my
elaborate
shop.
lie.
You see this little book? Well? That's the list of the folk from whom I buy, d'ye see? Well then, here on
Indeed,
this page are the
the
country
value of
folk,
such a narrative
and the
must
numbers
be
after their
preserved.
names are where their accounts are in the big ledger. Now then, you see this other page in red ink? Well, that is a list of my
The case is a
town
testament to the
suppliers.
shocking
Now look at
duality
that
of human
third
life
name,
and
just
the
read
ultimate
it out
triumph
to
of
me.
compassion over the elaborate lie.
Mrs. Oakshott, 117 Brixton Road, 249, read Holmes.
I will
Quite
record this
so.
case.
Now turn that up in the ledger. Holmes turned to the page indicated. Here you are. Mrs. Oakshott, 117 Brixton Road, egg and poultry supplier. Now then, what's the last entry? December 22nd, 24 geese
singular of
at
cases
7 shillings
came
and
to its
sixpence. Quite so. There you are. And underneath? Sold to Mr. Windigate of the Alpha at 12 shillings. What have you to say now? Sherlock Holmes looked deeply chagrined. He drew a sovereign from his pocket and threw it down upon the slab,
Các báo cáo
turning
chính thức được
away
công
with
bố.
the air of a man whose disgust is too deep for words. A few yards off he stopped under a lamp-post and laughed in the hearty, noiseless fashion which was peculiar to him. When you see a man with whiskers of that cut and the pink 'un protruding out of
I
his
must
pocket,
record the official
you
version
can
for the Chronicle,
always draw him by a
ensuring it is
bet,
both engaging
said he.
and discreet.
I dare say that
Only
if
you
I
and
had
I
put
know the true narrative,
£100
the
down in
cynical
front of
frame-up
him,
and the act of
that
mercy,
man would not
the
have
private
given me
knowledge of the
such
secret.
complete information as was drawn from him by the idea that he was doing me on a wager.
The official version of the story.
Well, Watson, we are, I fancy, nearing the end of our quest, and the only point which remains to be determined is whether we should go on to this Mrs. Oakshott tonight, or whether we should reserve it for tomorrow. It is clear from what that surly fellow said that there are others beside ourselves who are anxious about the matter, and I should... His remarks were suddenly cut short by a loud hubbub which broke out from the stall which we had just left. Turning round, we saw a little rat-faced fellow standing in the centre of the circle of yellow light which was thrown by the swinging lamp, while Breckenridge, the salesman, framed in the door of his stall, was shaking his fists fiercely at the cringing figure.
"I've had enough of you and your geese," he shouted. "I wish you were all at the devil together. If you come pestering me any more with your silly talk, I'll set the dog at you. You bring Mrs. Oakshott here and I'll answer her. But what have you to do with it? Did I buy the geese off you?" "No, but one of them was mine all the same," whined the little man. "Well then, ask Mrs. Oakshott for it." "She told me to ask you." "Well, you can ask the King of Prussia for all I care. I've had enough of it. Get out of this."
He rushed fiercely forward, and the inquirer flitted away into the darkness. "Ha! This may save us a visit to Brixton Road," whispered Holmes. "Come with me, and we will see what is to be made of this fellow."
A chronicle for the ages.
Striding through the scattered knots of people who lounged round the flaring stalls, my companion speedily overtook the little man and touched him upon the shoulder. He sprang round, and I could see in the gaslight that every vestige of colour had been driven from his face.
"Who are you then? What do you want?"
he asked in a quavering voice. "You will excuse me," said Holmes blandly, "but I could not help overhearing the questions which you put to the salesman just now. I think that I could be of assistance to you."
"You? Who are you? How could you know anything of the matter?"
"My name is Sherlock Holmes. It is my business to know what other people don't know."
"But you can know nothing of this."
"Excuse me, I know everything of it. You are endeavouring to trace some geese which were sold by Mrs. Oakshott of Brixton Road to a salesman named Breckenridge, by him in turn to Mr. Windigate of the Alpha, and by him to his club, of which Mr. Henry Baker is a member."
"Oh, sir, you are the very man whom I have longed to meet,"
cried the little fellow with outstretched hands and quivering fingers.
"I can hardly explain to you how interested I am in this matter."
Sherlock Holmes hailed a four-wheeler which was passing. "In that case, we had better discuss it in a cosy room, rather than in this wind-swept market-place," said he. "But pray tell me, before we go farther, who it is that I have the pleasure of assisting." The man hesitated for an instant.
"My name is John Robinson,"
he answered with a sidelong glance. "No, no, the real name," said Holmes sweetly. "It is always awkward doing business with an alias." A flush sprang to the white cheeks of the stranger.
"Well then," said he, "my real name is James Ryder."
"Precisely so. Head attendant at the Hotel Cosmopolitan. Pray step into the cab, and I shall soon be able to tell you everything which you would wish to know." The little man stood glancing from one to the other of us with half-frightened, half-hopeful eyes, as one who is not sure whether he is on the verge of a windfall or of a catastrophe. Then he stepped into the cab, and in half an hour we were back in the sitting room at Baker Street. Nothing had been said during our drive, but the high, thin breathing of our new companion and the claspings and unclaspings of his hands spoke of the nervous tension within him. "Here we are," said Holmes cheerily as we filed into the room. "The fire looks very seasonable in this weather. You look cold, Mr. Ryder. Pray take the basket chair. I will just put on my slippers before we settle this little matter of yours. Now then, you want to know what became of those geese?"
Yes, sir.
Or rather, I fancy, of that goose. It was one bird, I imagine, in which you were interested. White, with a black bar across the tail.
My name.
Ryder quivered with emotion.
"Oh, sir,"
he cried.
I will support our
"can you
life.
tell me where it went to?"
"It came here."
"Here?"
Yes,
Quiet joy of a
and a
successful
most
human
remarkable
resolution.
bird it proved. I don't wonder that you should take an interest in it. It laid an egg after it was dead. The bonniest, brightest
McCarthy's
little
death,
blue
ironically,
egg that ever was
purchased the
seen.
happiness of his son
I have
and
it
his
here
intended
in my
victim's
museum.
daughter.
Watson reflects
Our
on the power
visitor
of loyalty.
staggered to his
Turner's
feet
confession,
and
Jane's
clutched the
silence,
mantelpiece
and
with
Alice's
his
faith all
right
prove the ultimate
hand.
strength of the human bond.
Holmes unlocked his strongbox and held up the Blue Carbuncle, which shone out like a star, with a cold, brilliant, many-pointed radiance. Ryder stood glaring with a drawn face,
Indeed,
uncertain
the
whether
sequence
to
of events,
claim or
from
to
that
disown
simple
it.
hat to the intricacies of
"The
this
game's
high
up,
creed presents a
Ryder,"
most
said
fascinating
Holmes
study.
quietly.
A trivial hat,
"Hold up,
and yet it
man,
led us
we'll be into
directly
the
to a
fire.
major jewel crime.
Give him an arm back into his
absurdity of
chair,
it all.
Watson.
Realizing the
He's
complexity of the
not got
case
blood
makes
enough
it a
to go
valuable
in for
study of
felony
life's
with impunity.
interconnectedness.
Give him a dash of
The role of
brandy.
chance, my dear fellow, is a
So,
curious one. It
now
allowed
he
justice
looks
to
a little
prevail
more
despite our
human.
logical deductions.
What a shrimp
A
it
simple,
is, to be
accidental
sure.
exchange of geese, that was it.
For a moment he had staggered and nearly fallen,
One
but the
simple,
brandy brought a
absurd
tinge of
error.
colour into his cheeks, and he sat staring with frightened eyes at his accuser.
The value of trivial details
I
is
have
immense.
almost every
The criminal
link in
ignores
my
them,
hands,
making them the most
and all the
reliable anchors
proofs
of the
which I
truth.
could possibly
Goose feathers
need,
and the old hat
so there is
provided
little
more
which
reliable
you
evidence
need
than
tell
any
me.
witness statement.
Still, that little may as well be
Only
cleared up
Holmes can
to
find
make the
meaning
case
in the
complete.
insignificant.
You had heard, Ryder, of this blue stone of the
interconnectedness of
Countess
life
of
is profound.
Morcar's.
A simple lost
"It
hat can
was
lead to the
Catherine
rescue of a man
Cusack who
framed for the
told me
theft
of
a
it,"
priceless jewel.
Said he in a crackling voice. I see. Her ladyship's waiting maid.
Interconnectedness.
Well, the temptation of sudden wealth so easily acquired was
Món
too
quà
much
Giáng sinh
for
cuối
you,
cùng.
as it has been for
The
better
case
men
proved to
before
be
you.
Holmes's personal Christmas
But
gift.
you were not very scrupulous in the means you used. It seems to me, Ryder, that there is the making of a
Christmas
very
season is
pretty
over.
villain in you. You knew that this
The brief,
man Horner,
festive
the
interlude
plumber,
was finished.
had been concerned in some such matter before, and that suspicion would rest the more readily upon him. What did you do then? You made some small job in my
Holmes, not
lady's
again.
room, you and your
Quiet never
confederate
lasts long
Cusack,
with you.
and you managed that he should be the man sent for.
Ah, the
Then,
sweet satisfaction
when he had
of
left,
puzzle.
you rifled the jewel case, raised the
This
alarm,
unique
and had this
psychological
unfortunate
intricacies
man
must be
arrested.
preserved.
You then... Ryder threw himself down suddenly upon the rug and clutched at my companion's knees.
"For God's sake, have mercy!
He shrieked.
Think of my father! of my mother. It would break their hearts. I never went wrong before. I never will again, I swear it. I'll swear it on a Bible. Oh, don't bring it into court. For Christ's sake,
I must
don't.
commit this to the annals. for
Get
its unique
back into your
psychological
chair,
value.
said Holmes sternly. It is very well to cringe and crawl now, but you thought little enough of this poor Horner in the dock for a crime of which he knew nothing.
I will fly, Mr. Holmes. I will leave the country, sir. Then the charge against him will break down.
We will talk about that.
I must record
And
every
now,
detail.
let us hear a true account of the next act. How came the stone into the goose? And how came the goose into the open market? Tell us the truth, for there lies your only hope of safety. Ryder passed his tongue over his parched lips.
I will tell you it just as it happened, sir, said he. When Horner had been arrested, it seemed to me that it would be best for me to get away with the stone at once, for I did not know at what moment the police might not take it into their heads to search me and my room. There was no place about the hotel where it would be safe.
Horner's new,
I went out
honest
as if
life.
on some commission, and I made for my sister's house. She had married a man named Oakshott and lived in Brixton Road, where she fattened fowls for the market. On the way there, every man I met seemed to me to be a policeman or a detective, and for all that it was a cold night, the sweat was pouring down my face before I came to the Brixton Road. My sister asked me what was the matter and why I was so pale, but I told her that I'd been upset by the jewel robbery at the hotel. Then I went into the backyard and smoked a pipe and wondered what it would be best to do.
Watson.
I had a friend once called Maudsley who went to the bad and has just been serving his time in
Fatal
Pentonville.
beauty.
One day he had met me and fell into talk about the ways of thieves and how they could get rid of what they stole.
The case
I
is
knew that
officially
he would be
closed.
true to me, for I knew one or two things about him. So I made up my mind to go right on to Kilburn, where he lived, and take him into my confidence. He would show me how to turn the stone into money, but how to get to him in safety.
Final
I thought of the
analysis is
agonies I had gone through in coming from the hotel. I might at any moment be seized and searched, and there would be the stone in my waistcoat pocket.
It was a perfect
I was
tale.
leaning against the wall at the time and looking at the geese which were waddling about round my feet. And suddenly an idea came into my head which showed me how I could beat the best detective that ever lived.
I must
My
chronicle
sister
this
had told me
tale,
some weeks
for its
before that I
unique
might have the
structure will
pick
make
of
it
her
a
geese
powerful
for a
addition to
Christmas
the
present,
Chronicles.
and I knew that she was always as good as her word. I would take my goose now, and in it I would carry my stone to Kilburn. There was a little shed
final
in the
words of
yard,
the
and
story
behind
have
us
been
I
written.
drove one of the birds, a fine big one, white with a barred tail. I caught it, and prying its bill open, I thrust the stone down its throat as far as my finger could reach.
The annals of
The
history,
bird gave a
however
gulp,
grim,
and I felt the
must
stone
reflect
pass
the
along its
truth.
gullet and down into its crop. But the creature flapped and struggled, and out came my sister to know what was the matter. As I turned to speak to her, the brute broke loose and fluttered off among the others.
Among all the cases.
"Whatever were you doing with that bird, Jem?" says she. "Well," said I, "you said you'd give me one for Christmas, and I was feeling which was the fattest." "Oh," says she, "we've set yours aside for you. Jem's bird, we call it. It's the big white one over yonder. There's 26 of them, which makes one for you and one for us, and 2 dozen for the market." "Thank you, Maggie,"
This
says
narrative
I.
must be preserved.
"But if it is
Its
all the
unique
same to you, I'd
psychological
rather have that one I
value
was
recorded to
handling
the
just
annals of
now."
history.
"The other is a good £3 heavier," said she, "and we fattened it expressly for you." "Never mind, I'll have the other, and I'll take it now," said I. "Oh, just as you like,"
said she, a little huffed. Which is it you want, then? That white one with the barred tail right in the middle of the flock. Oh, very well. Kill it and take it with you. Well, I did what she said, Mr. Holmes, and I carried the bird all the way to Kilburn. I told my pal what I had done, for he was a man that it was easy to tell a thing like that to. He laughed until he choked, and we got a knife and opened the goose. My heart turned to water, for there was no sign of the stone, and I knew that some terrible mistake had occurred. I left the bird, rushed back to my sister's, and hurried into the backyard. There was not a bird to be seen there. Where are they all gone, Maggie?
Great
I
pride in this
cried.
act of mercy.
Gone to the dealers, Jem. Which dealers? Breckenridge at Covent Garden. But was there another with a barred tail? I asked. The same as the one I chose? Yes, Jem. There were 2 barred-tailed ones, and I could never tell them apart. Well, then, of course, I saw it all, and I ran off as hard as my feet would carry me to this man Breckenridge. But he had sold the lot at once, and not one word would he tell me as to where they had gone. You heard him yourselves tonight. Well, he has always answered me like that. My sister thinks that I am going mad. Sometimes I think that I am myself. And now I am myself a branded thief, without ever having touched the wealth for which I sold my character. God help me! God help me! He burst into convulsive sobbing, with his face buried in his hands. There was a long silence, broken only by his heavy breathing and by the measured tapping of Sherlock Holmes' fingertips upon the edge of the table. Then my friend rose and threw open the door. "Get out," said he.
This case,
What's
truly
that?
unique,
Oh, heaven
stands
bless
as a
you!
testament.
No more words. Get out. And no more words were needed. There was a rush, a clatter upon the stairs, the bang of a door, and the crisp rattle of running footfalls from the street. "After all, Watson,"
Indeed.
said Holmes, reaching up his hand for his clay pipe, "I am not retained by the police to supply their
I recognise the
deficiencies.
psychological value in this case.
If Horner were in danger, it would be another thing. But this fellow will not appear against him, and the case must collapse. I suppose that I am
This case,
commuting a
above all
felony,
others, solidifies
but it
its
is
legend.
just possible that I am saving the soul. This fellow will not go wrong again. He is too terribly frightened. Send him to jail now, and you make him a jailbird for life. Besides, it is the season of forgiveness. Chance has put in our way a most singular and whimsical problem, and its solution is its own
This
reward.
case, above all others, demands
If you will have the goodness to touch the bell, Doctor, we will begin another investigation, in which also a bird will be the chief feature. End of The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle.